Yo, yo, YouTube, what is going on? How's everyone doing this evening? It is 8 p.m., depending on where you are, on Monday, and we're here to talk about none other than Lovecraft Country, Episode 5. It was an interesting one, to say the least. But before we get into all that, I just want to thank you guys once again for joining the channel. We are continuing to grow in subscribers, and that really does mean a lot to both Dom and I. And I know I speak for him when I say thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. Like we say countlessly and religiously almost on this show, it really was just something to ease this whole 2020 madness, taking the podcast from just an audio format and switching it to YouTube. But it's kind of grown into something so much more. We have our own small little community that we're very proud and honored to have you guys be a part of and to be fostering and growing here. And it's been a blast getting to know you guys and hang out. And of course, it obviously means a lot. So as always, thank you for being here. And we're just gonna jump right into this one because, to be honest, there may or may not be a lot to unpack in here, depending on how tonight's guest, I'd say regular at this point to the channel, feels about this episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome yet again David of Flix Talk to the channel. David, what's going on,
Hey,
man?
what's going on, man? And it's interesting that you say that because you kind of alluded that you weren't feeling this episode. And I'll just say I beg to differ. I extremely beg to differ. This is one that's on
Okay.
my tier list as far as higher up there. And I was talking about yesterday how it's crazy and it's incredible to know that we're halfway through the season pretty much. Like this thing is flying by, and I don't know if that's due to just how much we're really digging this show or there's a lot going on in each episode. I think it's just a collective effort of a lot of different things. But yeah, I can't wait to get into this episode 5 strange case with you.
Yeah, man. And before we do that, I know you are a regular face around here, but just in
Yeah.
case, tonight the YouTube algorithm chooses to favor this live stream and we are exposed to thousands of people that we've never spoken to before, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what it is that you do over on your channel, Flickstock?
Yeah, no problem, man. So yeah, like Chris said, I am a regular as far as us always collaborating on different things. I don't do too many TV streaming shows, but this is one that I really fell in love with from the beginning, and I'm glad I definitely checked it out because it has, provides some good content for us to talk about. But anyways, other than streaming news, guys, I do talk about movies on my channel, movie news as well as doing. Sorry, I got something in my eye. As well as doing a lot of live streams, just retro gaming play, and I like to chat with the Flix Talk fam, is what I call you guys if you guys do subscribe to my channel, and just pretty much shoot the shit, just regular everyday talk. We could talk pop culture, we could talk fashion, we could talk what I'm eating that day, anything that you guys want. We will talk it on Flix Talk. That is the YouTube channel, Flix Talk. I do some vlogs out and about where I show you guys how to get some budget DVDs, Blu-rays added to your collection. If you guys are collectors, you guys see I got a little collection back there. That's only like a minuscule part of it, but I love finding deals. I love going on the hunt. So if you guys are into that stuff, make sure you guys are subscribing to my channel. Search for me on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Yeah, I highly recommend his content, especially a more recent video that he did with his brother, a try not to laugh challenge. It was something
Yeah.
nice and something new on the channel, and I really enjoyed that. So,
Yeah.
because you see a lot of those, and they're just like corny and lame, and like from channels that do corny and lame things. So it's nice to see something like that from someone that isn't that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
And
adds.
it's going to be a little, and I was going to say, I'll give people a little spoiler, but my brother even wants to do a conspiracy video because he's really big into conspiracies like UFO talk or Freemason talk, shall
Hey,
I
let me know
say?
if you need someone for that.
Yeah, because he's all about that on his channel, and I'm like, hey man, I'm here. I used to be really big into that, like maybe 10 years ago, my early 20s, and I'm all about it though. If it leads for a good conversation, let's do it, man. So we might take you up on that offer.
Okay, I mean, I can talk to you all about the reptilians and
I'm with it.
and all this sorts of crazy stuff. But not to get too far, before we dive into this episode, we got some friendly faces in the chat. One who we both know,
Yeah, what's up,
Q
Q?
Reviews. What's up,
That's
man?
right.
What's up, Q? Thanks for being here. Oh, he wants to get into this episode.
Shout out
Yeah,
Detroit.
we can get into it. Q, man. Once again, the offer stands. Whenever you want to jump in on one of these Monday night Lovecraft Country live streams, you are more than welcome to, dude. So please take us up on that. We have another 5 weeks. So yeah, David, you know what?
Yeah.
Why don't you sort of start us off here, man? Like, you said you really enjoyed this. Like, just give us some of your general thoughts, feedbacks, feelings, and we'll just sort of riff off that.
Yeah, so this was the Ruby episode that I think a lot of us that did enjoy her character from the first episode. I mean, we got the introduction where she's, she has. I thought she had a pretty cool voice. She's very diva-ish. She's very theatrical, right? And we see that she's Letitia's sister. They also kind of introduced that there was a conflict with her and Letitia, with everyone kind of missing her at the mother's funeral. So there's that big tie-in. Then after that, we kind of saw pieces of her here and there, besides episode 4, where it leaves off, with William. And that was kind of the biggest cliffhanger. I think we're all like, what's going to happen? Is she going to die? And then in this episode, I couldn't believe what I saw, because they kind of went left field. I thought maybe something completely different was going to happen. And this was her episode. And then it went even deeper of her living her days as a white woman. And that was something that I also totally even neglected to talk about, really, because there was so many things on my mind about the episode. Was the whole social construct of her. She even mentions, I didn't even need to take the money, because being white for the day was that's my currency. That was my currency. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, for her to, and I don't want to say that she wanted to be white, but there was certain instances where she knew that if she was white, like being in those stores, that she would be treated differently, because she showed that she was, into fashion, and she would always walk in the stores and get looked at and stuff like that. On the flip side as well, at the end of the episode, where she's kind of there as the help, she's getting treated in certain ways, like, hey, give me my food. She's obviously getting treated different. So I think living that little life sliver for the moment, really, it has you thinking, and it would have probably people talking. So I think this one was a talker, as far as that water cooler talk, at work.
Okay, that's sort of how you're feeling about it. First, before we jump into
Black Teen Wolf.
my thoughts on it, I just want to say, what up to unboxing, dude? Thanks for hanging out, man. Always supporting the channel. We appreciate you a lot. Yeah, no, for me, it wasn't really the dichotomy of sort of Ruby sort of seeing what it's like to be on the other side, and like the Jim Crow era, of course, like to experience what it's like to be like a white woman, and how the cops treated her so well in the beginning. That's all stuff that I thought was actually like really well done. To me, it was more so like the Lovecraftian side of things, and just like the plot direction, or rather, in my opinion, lack thereof, that was a little lackluster to me in this one, because I feel like, to come off the episode we had last week, right, where the main gang is sort of going on their little Indiana Jones-esque adventure, if you will, and meeting this ancient being, and getting all of this information about this like ancient sort of like book and these pages, and what do they mean, and how do they factor into everything, and then to like barely touch on that, except in one of those what do they call those when the photos are being dried, what's the word there,
Developed.
developed, yeah, in the
Yeah.
developing room. It just felt like a little too late, a little too like few and far between to call back to like what was such an important thing. Like, I think a lot of the issues I'm starting to have with this show, which sort of reared their head last episode, and I think sort of further started to seep through in this episode, isn't really like the social commentary. I do think that's brilliant. I think there's like, we get a lot of social commentary these days. I think this is one of the more like nuanced and more informed versions of that.
Mhm.
And therefore, because they use like history so well, it makes it more impactful,
Yeah.
because they're, sticking to facts, and they're not like, they're just telling you like it was. And I think that's the strong point of this episode. Like when we were talking about Elliot, like when I was like, let's get back to more of this, that's the part of the stuff that I'm like, okay, they're doing it right. But it just seems like it's like a very young group of creators behind this thing now, because it feels like
Mhm.
it's starting to lose its vision a little bit to me. Like, the soundtrack takes me out of it. I mean, too much Cardi B. No diss, but like,
Yeah.
I want like the period piece to be a full period piece, and just
Right.
like sort of the distribution of the overall arcs of the season, as we're now starting to see them come together. Not the episodes. I think the episodes are well done individually, but if you're trying to tell an overarching narrative, you're just not keeping me wanting to go along week to week. Like, if I wasn't covering this week to week on the channel, I would
Mhm.
start to think to myself as like a natural TV viewer who's probably a busy person who has a lot going on, like, is this worth sticking with? Because the things that I want to know, they're really taking their sweet time telling me.
Mm.
And I don't know, like, am I making sense here? Like, what's your take on everything I'm saying, man? Because it's
No,
been
I
a long
totally,
day.
yeah, I totally agree, man. And it's also been a long day, but I think other than obviously the main characters that we're getting, I think they wanted to throw that flip on it where, everything around these characters is changing and you have to change along with them. And I think that's not the norm of usually what we get in a story, in a series, right? I keep going back to, they're doing what's not the norm, what's outside of the box, and I'm actually really really enjoying it, especially these episodes where it focuses on more of a one character. And I'm glad she got her shine. She's one of my, I guess, more likable characters to me. I like seeing her backstory, and it seemed like she kind of got the brunt more of things once Letitia left. Like she had to kind of hold the weight. So I like, diving deeper a little bit into that. Now, as far as, the Lovecraftian side, where I don't know how this ties too much, the whole metamorphosis, I don't know if this is part of the book. I thought that was excellently done. I just enjoyed seeing, pretty much her ripping, the flesh off, it kind of, going through her body like a virus almost at rapid speed. And I thought the balance was once again there. And I enjoyed this way better than the last episode. I felt
Hmm.
like that adventure episode to me wasn't doing it. Plus, we got more development with Montrose, which we all kind of, knew what was going on. It was still a bit weird, and not just because it was a gay sex scene, but to me because it didn't, like, Montrose was holding back so much. And I mentioned it that he was mute the whole episode. He didn't say anything. He literally did not say anything. So I just kept in my mind when I was watching it, I was like, say something. Like you're holding your tongue for a reason. You don't just go out, kill, and stop their plans dead in their track, right? Letitia and Atticus's plans. There has to be some reasoning and explanation. Like, I know you're going through things that are a little deeper. You're obviously hiding this identity, um, you know. But I would, there's once again so many more questions, and will they be answered in the next 5 episodes? I'm not sure, but I enjoyed it. I'm having a good time, but it is like a roller coaster of, my likes and my dislikes. For I like more one episode as opposed to, I know we had talked about it last week about, like, oh, like every odd episode is better than the, evens. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
necessarily true, but
Right.
I
Right.
did
Right.
look this up. I did look this up on IMDb. It's one of the lower ones, so maybe people agree with you in the fact that it's not, didn't hit them as well as the others. So
Yeah, so let's talk about like the metamorphosis thing, because
yeah,
that was obviously a big part of not only allowing for, Ruby to see what it's like on the other side, and vice versa, as we later come on to find. It's just like, to me, I thought the visuals were stunning, and I think if you guys have been following this little series we're doing here on the channel, I've been pretty vocal about thinking that the CG in the show could be better, and it's not what I expect from HBO. I
hmm,
actually thought that was not the case this episode, and I think it paired nicely with like the disgustingly gory practical bits that they had, the flesh falling off, and I
yeah,
especially thought it was a really creative and brilliant scene when Ruby's in the alleyway, and she's
yeah.
changing, when they get outside of the bar and the face slides down the back, you
Oh,
know?
that was
That
great.
was, yeah, that was really cool. I did enjoy that, but
Yeah,
I think it quickly lost its charm when we had about 6 of that happen throughout the course of the episode. I
yeah,
understand it. Totally, I understand it. I mean, the episode plot wouldn't move along if she wasn't constantly changing with the way they wrote it. It had to happen. I just thought it was like, we wasted a lot of time on it because I wanted to, once you see one transformation, I think you've seen enough, especially with how awesome that one was where the face slides down her back and stuff, and the
yeah,
really elaborate one, because I think it just took away time from getting the plots of, like, Letty and our main cast, and seeing what's happening there, and like expanding more on their relationship, and
yeah,
seeing, like, okay, well, what are they going to do about how Montrose killed him, and like how are they going to, like, figure out the important stuff, and like, no offense to Ruby and her storyline, I think it was important for the world building of the show this episode, and I think she was it was cool to see her shine in her episode. But and William as well. I thought they were great together. Actually, I thought it was really cool. Like, I liked seeing that side of the cast. The more,
yeah,
I guess, B side of the cast get their moment, but I think, like, you can do that, and I think great shows have done that. Like Game of Thrones is probably a great example of shows that have, maneuvered this boundary, not really so much the later seasons, but in the first few seasons.
Mhm.
um like sort of jumping back and forth between Jon Snow, and then we go to the Lannisters, and so we can spend time with all these different characters, but we're constantly progressing forward. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like if this is going to be that type of show, I just don't really feel like I got what I wanted out of what was left in taste in my mouth from last week. And I'm
Mm.
just a little like, when are we gonna like figure out the voice of the show here? Because now I'm like, I got used to the whole there is no voice, but there still needs to be like some uniformity to press forward in. You know what I'm trying to say? Like the writing feels
Yeah.
a little loose in my opinion
Yeah.
going
Well, and
forward
that
now.
and that's where I have to we had talked about that yeah, this has the same show writers and producers and stuff like that behind it, but each episode, or at least most of the episodes, have different directors. This one is Cheryl Dunye, and I looked up her titles, don't know any of her work. So I think that does attribute to what we are watching. And I think people always say, well, just directing. It's just directing. That's a huge part of something being masterful or not. I think people put that on the back burner. Like they go, yeah, there has to be great writing, there has to be great cinematography. But why are people always throw like director like number third, fourth? I think that really does matter. And I think if anything, I think this episode was a little bit jumbled because I could have done without Letty and Atticus for one episode. Even the father's story. If it would have just been Ruby and Will, I would have been totally fine with that. And the whole, Ruby when she changed to Hillary, taking her and the girls to the South Side. I thought that could have been explored a lot more. You don't just take a bunch of white girls to the South Side and that's it. Like I wanted to see a little bit more of what happens. There could have been a little more depth with the racial tension,
Right.
with that storyline. Instead, we got the transformation, and then we did see that scene with the woman and the I guess the manager in
Yeah,
the
Q
alley.
agrees
Which
with you, by the way.
yeah. What was that? I didn't hear.
Q agrees with you, by the way. He said
Oh
facts. Like as you were saying that, I think it could have been way more explored as well. Yeah, go back to that manager in the alley thing, because I was
yeah.
gonna bring that up. Yeah, because I thought that was a token to the poor writing, because I didn't even recognize that was him until afterwards when
Mhm.
she's punishing him in his office. I was
Right.
like, oh, okay, that was probably him. But it's just like,
And
you
that
know,
but that's
take it
all
away, man.
but that's also that needed, I believe, to be in there. Maybe I just wanted to see the club scene extended about maybe another 5-7 minutes or something like that, so we can get a little more interaction with black and white folks, interacting, black men, white women. How is that? Like obviously they were dancing together, but I wanted to see a little more maybe eyes from people that didn't think that they belonged there. Like I wanted to see a little more is from a timepiece, right? Instead, we got
Yeah.
the scene from the alley, which is fine because that was kind of the pivotal moment where Ruby was like, maybe I don't want to keep transforming. Maybe this is not for me because I'm really upset with how they're treating this woman. And she was treating the woman poorly too, but for different reasons. She was treating her poorly for the fact that she had gotten the job with literally not even completing high school. No, I forget what it was, but some kind of a course or something that she was talking about. Oh, they offer that at the for free
Yeah,
or
well,
whatever. And
so basically, it was like when she said she didn't have her high school education, she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, you at least completed this course," which to me made me think like, okay, maybe it's like a high school supplement thing. It's like a little
Mm,
lower, not as respected. I wasn't alive back then. I don't really know how the education
yeah.
system worked, but like, yeah, it was like you didn't even complete that. It seemed like it was like to a lower token, but
Right.
I just dude, I I think like the thing about this show is I was so on board for so long, but now as we're getting, and I'm not that I'm not still on board, I'm just starting to have some worries, because now that we're
Mm,
kind of getting into this thing deeper and we know we only have 5 episodes left to get there, there's still a lot of questions that I mean, just this poor use of time and this poor time management by the filmmakers are starting to get me worried, because you're totally right. I mean, we didn't need really any of those Letty scenes. We didn't need any of those Montrose scenes. As cool
Yeah.
as that reveal was, we kind of already had been speaking that we knew that Montrose might be, doing those types of things. And like, we were just like, okay, well, like, hopefully when they show it, it's like a worthwhile way. And I really
Mm.
don't think that it really paid off. I think instead,
Yeah.
like that whole, you're right. Like, I think it would have been a great sort of pairing to that scene in the beginning where Ruby wakes up as the white woman, and she's like marching down the street and she's all distraught, and she bumps into the black kid who's holding popcorn, and then the cops come over and they instantly just assume the situation without asking
Yeah.
any. I thought it could have been a really cool contrast if
Mhm.
something, and I was thinking like, oh, okay, because I wasn't liking the episode too much up until they went to that the bar, on the south side, and I was like, oh, they're gonna do like a callback here and show the flip side of it, and maybe show like the fear or like the tension, but they didn't. They
Yeah.
really just glazed over it, and instead we got another transformation scene, which was
Mhm.
cool. Like the face laid down the back, that was
That was
gnarly, I
cool.
guess.
Yeah.
But like it just didn't sort of have the emotional payoff that I wanted, especially since like the messaging in the beginning of like that opening sequence I thought was such a strong statement.
Yeah.
So I was just like a little like, oh man, like you were so strong out the gates and you really didn't follow it up here. But like what's
Yeah.
your take on all that? I mean, we could talk about the reveal a little later, because that was kind of a saving grace. Although if you talk to Elliot, you already kind of know what we're getting at. But
That's why I'm like, man, you kind of give me spoilers along the way, because I have a feeling that you watched all 5 episodes when you first got them like a month ago. But despite all of that, I was still surprised, especially that first kill of what wasn't a first kill, but the first metamorphosis where is her name Dell? But so that was the woman. I was trying to figure it out. Dell was the white woman that she changed into, but that was the woman back in episode 2. Remember, she had the 2 dogs. It was the exact same woman. Remember?
oh, in the woods, right?
That was her. That was her. So I was trying to figure
Oh,
out.
okay,
Did
interesting.
did he kidnap her and then do something where Ruby would kind of come through in her and be her? Like that's where I was trying to figure out, why did he choose her? And then when she, changes her identity, or when she becomes a woman, she says, "My name is Hillary Dunhart," or whatever the hell. I forgot what it is, but
Yeah, it's just Hillary. I remember to say.
yeah, Hillary. So, but I thought that first transformation where he stabbed her, ripped her open, I thought was pretty damn cool, because that shows you it's like, hey, you didn't cut away. I mean, you kind of cut away, but you could hear everything and see it from afar. This is HBO, and that's what I liked.
Yeah, so dude, I thought that was a really creative shot. I thought that was a really great way to end what was a very strong opening sequence. Like
Yeah.
I thought to myself at that point, and my schedule's been so busy that I just watched this thing like 2 hours ago, so it's fresh on my mind. I thought to myself at that point, I was like, oh shit, like this might be my favorite episode yet. This was a
Hmm.
crazy opening sequence,
Yeah.
because it's just blurred out in the background enough, but you see him ripping out long skinny things and the death
Yeah.
metal track and all that. And I was like, what is going on here?
That
Like,
was
we're in
very,
for a
very cool.
ride. Like, this show just keeps getting better is what I thought.
Yeah, and
But
staying on the topic of the metamorphosis,
mhm.
I wish we would have got a little more explanation. I feel like it was just explained in like a minute, and it was, he was just talking about, what metamorphosis was, and that he wanted to apply it to humans. Cool. Can we understand a little more how that's even possible? Like, I understand there, she even says, oh, magic is real, but it's like, throw a little more. I don't want to say get too scientific with it, because we're dealing with magic and sorcery and different things, right? But how is this possible? At least when with like Reanimator, or like that one episode 3, like I don't know. I feel like they just like they explain how that guy was like dismembering people and like reattaching the limbs. That was a little explained a little more, so we got to see how they came to be. But I would like to see how this metamorphosis process even possible. I don't want to know it to the T, but just give me a little vague information.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that, because to be honest with you, like we spoke a little bit earlier about the confusion of like, at least for me, it didn't quite translate that they invited their boss out to the South Side with them, because I thought they had that scene where they were all like sort of like shit talking him, the woman
Yeah,
of
why
the
would they invite the
job,
boss?
and then they invite him. So I mean, that was just like,
Yeah, that was weird.
okay, I guess because he like cornered them and caught them like, getting into a little tiff at work. But I mean, I assumed it was a girls' night out thing, and he was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's fine. Like, get back to work." And so that didn't translate well to me. And then
Mm.
you just kind of brought up how basically like with the whole transformation thing and like the rules of it and the little red vials they were waving around the whole time. It was never
Yeah.
really clear to me this episode. I understood the principle, and I think as like people like us who have watched a lot more film than maybe like the average listener or viewer, we're a little more able to decode certain cryptic things just because like
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of good, we've seen a lot of bad. But I just think there was a lot of clarity lacking in this episode. Even with the Montrose B story, even with the Letty B story. I just it all felt a little thin. It all felt a little like I really gotta like interpret here to understand what's going on, and I'm glad I've seen a lot. Did you feel that way?
Yeah.
Like, because I certainly felt like a little
Yeah.
lost.
A little bit. And I won't lie. One thing I also forgot to mention was the red vial, which you just talked about. I forgot. Did they explain what that even was? I didn't even. Was that like almost like the blue pill? Like she goes back to kind of being who she. I didn't really
See,
understand what it was.
they never showed it in action, if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly, and that's the thing about it. If they at least would have had a scene where you see, Ruby pour it into a glass and drink it, or mix it with something and drink it,
Mhm.
then we could have been like, oh, okay, so she can take it to go back and forth, and maybe there's like some physical toll on the body that you want to like only do it so many times because there
Mhm.
might be a point in time where the body won't be able to transform back and forth, and that's where I thought we were going, which would have been played out. I've seen that type of thing before, but it would have been cool and it would have made sense.
Yeah.
Instead, they just didn't explain it, and so William, and I forget who the other character is, the his sister or whatever, the woman, the blonde girl,
Christina.
Christina. Thank you. They did was kind of just shake it in front of Ruby the whole time and
Yeah.
never really use it.
I
And
think she
then
pulled it. Yeah, I think she pulled it out in the alleyway when she was changing, and then like she like broke
yeah,
it in her hand or something. And I was like, "What is this even doing? Like, I don't. Was that supposed to control it? What was like the
I
serum or
mean,
I don't."
yeah, so I noticed that they had cracked it, I think, another time as well in the episode, and I said maybe to myself, okay, so it's like an aroma thing, like maybe they inhale it, but
Hmm.
again, it really wasn't that clear. And why did you need such a big vial to
Yeah.
I mean, I just think they're playing around with magic a lot, and they're using
Yeah.
magic as a way to sort of cross between the social struggles of the time and the insane journey that these characters are just already on outside of like the social struggles, just like fighting demons and ancient magic and cults and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But I just think they're throwing a lot at you, and they're not really they're not helping you internalize the rules of the world very well, is what I'll
Right.
say. And so that's why now I think episode 5, if I wasn't as avid of a TV watcher as I have been, if I was just more of like a normie type guy who's like, I want to watch something freaky and weird and let's check out this new HBO show. HBO's good, like that type of dude,
Mm.
or girl, whatever. It's just the way I speak, guys. And I was in a band for a long time. And I think if I wasn't so well versed in this type of stuff, I'd be really confused. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
know,
mean, from me, I mean, I'm more of a movie watcher guy, so I interpret it, I guess, a little different. I think as soon as Elliot maybe planted the seed of this is going to be like an anthology type of deal where it's just, different every single episode. I think that's where my mind started to get a little more adjusted to what I was possibly going to be seeing in the future. And I was fine with that.
Yeah, I don't dude, I don't really I don't think I was that fine with it because I kinda had high expectations for the show,
Mm.
and, I just want this show to, like, be something, like,
Hmm.
that can continue because I really like the characters, I really like the setting, I for the most part, like the cinematography and not so much the special effects, but, like, everything else, and, I'm starting to get lost in the lack of attention to detail, and I hate to say that. I hope it recovers because I think the one saving grace that's kind of keep me around to the end of this, if I was not covering this week to week, right? Let's just say I was just watching this just because I wanted to unwind after work or something. The
Yeah.
one thing that's going to keep me going is that the first 4 episodes and the main storyline, our main cast, and now we're wondering to ourselves, okay, so it's might be difficult to say Montrose is the dad because, well, he very well showed that he is gay, or if anything, at least bisexual, right? Because we don't know the full extent of his history now. But
That's another thing where you're on the. I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, go
I
for
don't
it.
want it to leave my brain. Um, so that was one thing I couldn't interpret and decipher was that when he was there watching the drag show and he was looking into Sammy's eyes, Sammy changed to a woman, which was that Atticus's mom, but at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, that looked like the woman that was in the flashback with Uncle George when they were in episode 2. Remember that?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I
It looked
think
very
that
similar. I couldn't tell because she had the whole getup on, but I was like, wait a minute. I
I
think this
thought
might be
that
the
as
same
well.
woman.
I thought that as well, and I think that what's Q say here? He said, "That's how I'm feeling the anthology." Okay, I
Yeah, like a
mean,
feel of anthology, probably.
yeah, I wouldn't want that, to be honest with you. I'd want this to continue because I think there's a lot of rich material to explore here. But back to Atticus's, mom in the flashback, I
Yeah,
really think like it's gonna come out that Courtney B. Vance's character George is Atticus's real dad, and that's why he had such a
possibly.
connection to him in those first 2 episodes. Like, I really think that's what they're trying to do here, and I
Hmm.
think it's like so painfully obvious that it's like doesn't make me feel proud to call that or anything before it was revealed.
Mm.
Of course, there's a reveal that we haven't quite gotten to yet that a good friend of ours, Elliot, had been touting for a little while. And that one I don't think I would have picked up on had he not
Hmm.
had inserted it deep into my brain. But I think to what you said, Flix, it is pretty obvious that that was George in my book. As far as I'm concerned, my Necronomicon says that was
Mm.
George. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, man.
Interesting. Yeah, I really wanted to see more, obviously, of the Montrose story. Maybe not so much at this point because I know he is troubled. He's drinking his sorrows. There's a lot of things going on in his mind. I'm more concerned about his relationship with Atticus, and then of course, the woman that they keep bringing up, which is I don't want to jump to the end of the episode, but Gia, man, I want to see Jamie Chung. I want to see how she knows pretty much, and that was another thing too. Before, I don't want to jump before we get to that reveal, but there's something in all the writings in the book that I kind of was like, wait a minute, what? And then he says, how did you know? So I was like, okay, maybe I missed something, but there was a lot of words being written on that thing. But is there something coming? Is his life in danger? Like what, is gonna happen with that character and Atticus? I
So,
think they had a relationship too, by the way, when he was in Korea.
oh, okay. That'd be interesting.
That's
I,
kind of
I
what
would
I
like
got
to
from
see.
it.
Hmm. I think that'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see that pan out.
Yeah.
Because I think you can explore that in an interesting and different way and sort of get away from some of like the tropes of like horror and then like dramas that we've seen before. But back to the book and the symbols, like when they're in the dark room developing, that's what
Mhm.
it's called. It's called the dark room. Film school coming back to me. I think, and it was really hard to sort of see and understand. We only had like one shot with this, like, what was that? A little oak log that Ruby had in her hand when they're like, look, you got to do a favor for me now that I've given you this extreme gift of magic.
Mhm.
I think that was the symbol that was on the, I think that was the symbol that was on the book as well that Atticus was reading. And
Oh,
so
really?
now they're starting to draw some through lines and they're starting to connect a little bit, but to me it was still like unclear. I mean, I guess it's because he's trying to take hold of the order, the what do they call them? The Freemasons. See, here's the problem, dude. It's not explained enough. So I know it's the people that we saw at the end of episode 2, and I know that's like the battle now. There's this like cop guy that Ruby was the caterer at the party for, or whatever he
Yeah, that
is,
was another thing
who's
too.
who's trying to take hold, and they're all fighting over the power of this ancient order, but I don't know what this ancient order is enough to talk about it. And I think that is where I'm starting to see problems with the writing because like you can't, not everyone has time to sit down and study your show
Yeah.
like it's a class, like it's a textbook. And so there are people on YouTube who obviously have like a huge grasp of it, but they're like very studious when it comes to this. But like I speak to some of my friends who don't even watch my channel, bad friends, but whatever. And they're just like, I am watching this show and I don't know what's going on. And I can't say I disagree with them as someone who is a little more attentive because that
I
all I just said is as far as I can dive into any of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't even know who Titus was until like episode 3 or 4. Like when Elliot was like, "Yeah, Titus is," and they're getting the pages from this, and I was like, "Who the f is Titus?" Like I really didn't pick up on all these characters that they're name dropping, as you know, and all the attributes that they have. Grandfather, great 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 grandfather of this is. There's a lot of information thrown at you, and it is really hard to keep up, especially if you watch multiple shows. So I totally get that 100%. And one thing, yeah, while we were kind of talking about the sheriff's involvement, that was one thing I forgot to talk about in my spoiler review last night was the whole chest thing that he had going on, where it looked like he was sliced up or something was going on with his chest. I didn't get into that, but what were your thoughts on that? Because it looked like he got butchered up. I don't know, during something ritual maybe, or I don't know. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I thought it was certainly a ritual type thing. Like we're learning that there are a lot of societies at work here, and they're all
Mm.
fighting for some central control, some central power, almost some deep state nonsense. Going back to that little conspiracy thing at the top, and that's another reason you might want me on the show, man. I got nonsense facts for days, but
Oh man.
yeah, dude. It was just like, okay, that's, I guess they wanted that to be a reveal, but again, it wasn't paired with anything substantial, so it didn't have an impact on me, you know?
It might be something in the near episodes, possibly. And that's why I think a lot of these are little like little breadcrumbs that we're getting, for what's to come, possibly. Either with the reveal of Montrose, being with another man, because it's like, hey, now, if you didn't already guess it, Atticus might not be might not be his father now. Same thing with the sheriff. Oh, there's other things at play. More people are involved with this Freemasonry or whatever is going on with the town. So I think they're just throwing these side little Easter eggs, not Easter eggs, but little breadcrumbs, like I said, to kind of get you excited for the next 5 episodes that we have coming to a head. And I agree, some episodes leave me more excited than others. And I think that just goes back to maybe some of the situational situations that they get into, and as well as the directing too. So that's just me, though.
No, I'm with you. Like I said, I'm not giving up on it. I think I'm just being
Yeah.
a little more critical on this episode because I would like to start seeing some clear visions of where we're going because I'm hoping for an impactful finale.
Yeah.
So now it's becoming more clear that what we saw at the end of episode 2 wasn't just like a one and done episode of the week type thing. That order and the factions that are at war, they obviously have a lot of power, and now we're starting to see the extent of their magic. So I think like talking it through right now with you, starting to see like the bigger vision, but I do still think I am confused, like how they just casually have that man in the closet who's like bleeding out, I assumed, when Ruby has to hide in there. And it's just
Yeah, they
like
didn't really
yeah.
explain
What's your
it
take on
too
that, man?
much.
That was
They did. I mean, once they hear him kind of like, and his tongue was cut out, so every time he kind of opened his mouth, blood would come out. And Ruby's trying to cover his mouth, and when he makes a noise, they know he's in there because they reference him and they like, hey, haha, maybe he, blah blah. Blah. But I didn't understand who he was. Was he like a snitch or something? Or was he like someone that was going to rat him out to something? Did he owe them money? Something happen with this guy and the cops? Like, once again, there's a couple things thrown in there that either are unnecessary or they're never explained, and they didn't need to be really thrown in there other than filler.
right. And that's exactly what it was. One of those stupid explanations. One of the grunts had said to the big boss something like that, like, ha ha, ha boss, this is what you get for not paying up. Something like that, like don't
Yeah.
quote me on that. But it was like that kind of in passing thing. Now, hey, look, if the show ties in that type of scene or the type of scene where Christina is pulling God knows what out of a cow that's giving birth, or the woman who Ruby was transferred into in the beginning, and why was she in the woods in the first place? If this show like ties all that in and makes this conversation right now look dumb, then good God, we're in for a treat. But
Yeah.
right now, I just feel like there are way too many different threads dangling, and I don't know how we're gonna connect them all.
Yeah. I was
Getting a
just
little
about to ask.
nervous, man.
I was just about to ask you, do you think we're going to get more of those whatever diggers or whatever that are, the creatures that we got in episode 1? Do you think we're going to get more of those? I mean, I'm sure we're going to get some in the last couple of episodes, but I want to see him sooner than later. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I do want to see them sooner than later because I want to know that we're going to a place that's going to be very impactful and leave me wanting more of this type of show, you know.
Mm,
That's something that like I'm nervous that we might not be heading to right now, and I hate to say it, but lately with Westworld and with kind of the direction this show's going in, my thoughts on J.J. Abrams, regardless of how much he actually put into it, maybe
mm,
his process of sniffing something out like, oh, I like this, I want to invest in this, isn't as strong as we would think. Because
yeah,
if you look at Lost later on, man, I mean,
I
you
know you always go
introduced a
back to
lot of
that.
cool stuff in the sixth season, but good God, I'll be the first to say the sixth season was not a crowning part of television by any means, no crowning achievement. And I love that show. They just,
Yeah.
I just don't want them to be doing too much because I really, like Q said, I'm going to jump up earlier in the chat. It's a little out of sync here if we're following down chronologically, but like, look, I'm going to quote this, but it's also what I was probably going to say. I got to say, I love these characters though, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like, don't mess them up, you know?
Yeah.
Don't mess them up.
Now, I noticed you said that you had a lot of high hopes for this show when it was announced. Is that because of J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele attached? Because I don't think any of us really knew too much about Misha Green
No,
when it was
nothing.
announced. I didn't at all. I won't lie, but I think and the cast itself were more fresh faces other than maybe Journey Smollett. I think she probably has the most on her resume. I think with Jonathan Majors is like a rising star, and of course some of the older characters like Montrose and the Uncle
Courtney B.
George are
Vance.
more,
Mhm.
yeah, they're more well
Right.
seasoned, I guess, veterans. But other than that, you don't have any like
Looking at like
Tom
megastars though.
Cruise is there in there. Yeah, you don't have that. So I was
Yeah,
just
exactly.
wondering what was your reason for this, so I guess so hype.
Yeah, so for me it was just because like I'm a huge gamer, as you know, David, and a lot of the types of games that I like to play are like survival horror games, and so that's kind of how I started to hear about this Lovecraft guy. You know, this
Mm,
dead writer of almost 100 years being dead, and just maybe even more than that, and just like how they adopt his characters like Cthulhu and the whole At the Mountains of Madness being up there in the Antarctic with the aliens and all that, which, you know, regardless of who he was as a person, he has some really compelling stories. Like I'll read those at night and I'm like scared reading a book, dude. Like I never thought, people always tell me like, "Yeah, man, the book's scarier than the movie." And I'm like, "Dude, you just don't really live life the way I would want to." But like there are some
yeah.
cases where I'm like, "Oh shit, like this is pretty scary right now." So it was the
Yeah.
pairing of like being a fan of both of the, you know, big producers attached to it and
Okay.
just being exposed to Lovecraft's work and seeing like how a series would come out of this and how they would sort of pay homage. Because once I found out it was like, oh, it's not about one of his works in specific, it's more so borrowing from it and adapting it in a sense. I was like, this could be interesting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
went in the complete opposite. I was completely blind. I had no clue about it. I saw Jonathan Majors in the Five Bloods like recently, like, before that, and I was like, okay, Journey Smollett, I saw her in Birds of Prey, I guess. I will check out episode one. And that's how I always do it. I don't automatically just go, I'm gonna review this show because like what if it sucks? Like, so I always let episode one sink in before I really give it a chance. I did that with a couple of shows recently, and I don't want to say the names because maybe I'll tell you off air because I don't want to throw anybody's new shows under the bus. But
yeah,
it
no
takes a
worries.
lot. Yeah, it takes a lot to kind of suck me in when it comes to a streaming show. I will say that movies I'm a little more lax with. It's only an hour and a half, 2 hours of my time, right? But if you dedicate 10 hours to a show, if it's an hour episodes, it really
Yeah.
has to put me in the first couple episodes. I'll just say that. And this one kind of had me on the first episode. I still feel like everyone's going back to the first episode as being their most favorite, and I think, like I said before, they have their least favorite episodes, but I still think it's a solid kind of little roller coaster ride that we're getting of different situations going on. But ultimately, it all ties in, even as weird as it's getting, with a lot of information thrown at you. So
Yeah, I feel that, man. It's like I said, it's one of those things. And I think now's where we get into the twist and sort of like the ending of this episode as we start to wrap things up here. But I do want to shout out some of the horror games though to Q. So David,
yeah.
not to get too off topic, I think this is a nice little way to build tension to talk about this finale, this twist here. Have you tried Alien Isolation yet? Have you been able? I know it's more
No,
money
I
than I
can't.
said, which sucks.
Yeah, my stream keeps. I downloaded Steam just for that, and it keeps popping up every time I load my computer, and I'm like, oh yeah, Alien Isolation. I got to get that. I no, I have not played it.
Okay. Try and torrent it if you can. It's super old. It shouldn't still be
Okay,
$40, but it was like a huge game at the time. So it was like a groundbreaking game. But some of the
gotcha.
Lovecraft horror games I've played would be Call of Cthulhu, or there's this brilliant one which was so slept on from 2 years ago called Canarium. That game
Canarium.
is
That sounds very
terrifying.
familiar.
It
Okay.
was it was a very, very indie game, but it was like, wait, Q, did you play Canarium? But I think he's talking about Alien. Yeah, Alien was intense, hiding in the lockers and stuff, and the alien's right there, and you're like, oh, did he hear me? Did he not? Yeah, it's very, very intense.
I was just about to say I
But
didn't even know you could torrent games.
you can,
But
yeah, you can. Totally.
okay, okay,
But
okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you can if you want to. Probably shouldn't have
Yeah.
said that on a live stream. Whatever. I'm not doing it.
The feds are
It's up
kicking in
to
your
you.
door as we speak.
But yeah, they might be. Whatever. Who cares?
I'm
If
kidding.
that's the case, then geez, they have nothing better to do. Oh man, there was a funny story about like a teacher who called the cops on one of her students because of they found a Nerf gun in the background of his Zoom call, and she thought it was like a real gun. Yeah, that's a real
Oh
thing
my
that happened.
gosh.
So
No way.
hey,
Aren't
you got
those
one
like
ring.
bright orange? Like bright?
They are.
Come on.
I wish I was kidding. It popped up on my YouTube feed, and it's like a credible journalist I follow, and he was talking about it.
Oh
But
man.
anyways,
Yeah.
drum roll. Let's get into that finale, man. That was a nice
The
little
big reveal.
subversion there. The big reveal.
Yeah.
So William is Christina. Christina is William. How do
Yeah.
you feel about that?
Well, initially I was like, okay, I understood it because once again, it was a seed that was planted previous episodes from another podcaster. But I was like, okay, she's using, male and female to her benefit, which is cool. But at the same time, I wanted an explanation. How are you picking and choosing who you get to morph into? Because that we saw that Dell character was from a previous episode, so which had a tie into that small town that was part of where the mansion was, right? So he obviously got to do some kind of ritual or something to spell, or I don't even know how William. I would love to see an explanation. I'm not really into wizardry or sorcery; it's not my forte. But somehow that really intrigued me, and the payoff that we got of them transforming. I just lost it for a second, but
Well,
also,
while you're
go
oh,
ahead.
go for it. Yeah. Oh, I
I
just
was
wanted
good.
to say, so someone who is kind of a little more into like the whole wizardry type thing,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and this is what I was thinking, that William and I guess Christina at this point in the conversation, I'd say if you guys are listening, just assume we're talking about them synonymously so it doesn't get confusing. So whatever name we use, we're talking about the other person, the
We
other
we
side
can
of the
call her
coin in a
Willina.
sense.
We can call her Willina.
Willina. Sure, I love that. I love that. Actually, that's so stupid. I think Willina is sort of grooming Ruby. I think he or she sees something in Ruby, and so
Mm,
wizards have apprentices, And
yeah.
I think that's kind of like they're trying to show Ruby, like, look, there's more to this than you think. We just gave you a little taste, and that's why they
Yeah.
told her to go off and be who you really want to be. And then so then as Hillary, she
Yeah.
obviously did crazy stuff to the boss in the office. And
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so. It seems like he got what was coming to him. Although they didn't really give you a scene to like really drive that home. Like I would have, not that I want to see a scene like that, but I would have wanted at least an account from one of like the ladies there that like, oh, he does stuff instead of them getting all awkwardly quiet. Like
Mm,
just to like sort of like drive home the fact that like, of course he deserved it. Obviously, I mean,
yeah.
again, as like seasoned watchers of things, we were able to grasp that he deserved it. But that's back to my sort of like poor, uh, you know, uh, my breakdown of the poor writing of this
Poor
show.
writing.
But yeah, I mean, so I think that's what's happening here, though. To get back to the main point, like I think Willina is grooming Ruby to
Mm-hmm.
be the apprentice, and so the ball's in her court now. It seems.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that when William Willina, was with Ruby, is she finding enjoyment in that as Christina, or is she just doing that to obviously just I mean, it's probably just to manipulate Ruby to but it was just kind of it's interesting, right? Because when you have Ruby, you have her go from a female to another female. Yeah, it's a different race, but in this case, we're getting a male to a female, and vice versa. So, I would love to hear, a take of, how it felt on both sides. I don't know. Like there's once again, so many unanswered questions, but that would lead to like 2-hour episodes. There would be just way too much. But at the same time, you could have trimmed a lot of different things. By the way, going back to that kill where the guy gets hit with a stiletto in the butt, I'll just say that if you noticed, the flesh fell off her onto his back. I was like, that was so attention to detail, like because she's on top of him as she's metamorphosizing,
Yeah,
just dripping, and it's falling all over him. He's like, what the fuck is going on?
dude,
you know,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
that,
pretty gross.
and what a way to die, right?
Mm.
I mean,
Did he
but
die though?
see, everyone's saying he died, and so I guess I was adopting the internet's vernacular there. I thought he didn't die. I
I
think
don't
he
think he
lived to
did,
tell the
unless he
tale.
bled out or something. But I don't think he did.
Dom, my partner in crime, texted me. He was like, "Dude, and that death was crazy." And then I saw a few other people's reviews say that he died, and
Mm.
so that seems to be what people got out of it. But again, back to my problems with the episode, I don't know for sure anything really.
If that is the case, and I'm not saying that all he said was, that word to that woman, but does that warrant him enough to die? I would have loved to see maybe a little more background, like maybe
Right.
he was like sexually harassing the girls, or maybe he was being more evil than what was shown to warrant
And that's exactly what I was
a
just
death like
saying.
that.
More than just
Yeah,
that scene where Hillary asks all them and they have like this really awkward pose and then they just kind of laugh it off because they're like, "Oh, we don't know you well enough to actually tell you what's going on."
yeah.
And so as the listener, the viewer, the fly in the wall, right?
Kind of just
We never
alludes, yeah, to him being, I guess, more devilish than I guess what they're showing. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so to me, this twist at the end was, and I'm trying to take out the fact that I've, know someone who's been calling it since week one, and planting that in my head for a while now.
mhm.
I'm trying to take out that the shock value may have been ruined a bit because of like knowing Elliot, although good on
I
him
felt
for
that too.
predicting it.
Yeah, I
So
felt that too.
I'm trying to, break apart from that. And I
Yeah.
think if I was watching this and I wasn't already having a pre-existing thought of that in my head, I would have been surprised and it would have saved the episode. But because I knew it, I think that this was by far the weakest episode, and
Hmm.
it has me worried going forward. So it wasn't enough for me.
Hmm. I
Mm,
guess, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I think if we weren't people that dissected it week by week and we were just going into it not knowing that this scene was probably going to even happen, I think I'd be a lot more excited, for the series as a whole, for them, exploring things that are just because I guess this topic of metamorphosis was just so interesting to me. I just wanted to hear more explanation on how that became to be in the 50s, right? I mean, it's like
right.
70 years ago. And, how is this possible? How is this even remotely possible? I know we're living in that. This is a fictional show, but
Hmm.
give me a little hint of something that could once again tie it into me understanding it a little better, I guess.
No, you're totally right, man. And I think it's really cool, like talking about the Freemasons who have historically been around for a long time.
Mm.
There are people who have claimed to be Freemasons back for hundreds of years. So it's cool to like tie all this stuff in. But I think I'm gonna, unless you have like one more tangent you want to go off on, I feel like I have a good way to sort of wrap this thing up and bring it to a head here.
No, I think we pretty much talked about everything. I'm trying to think in the show. Uh, Besides maybe a little more in depth with Jamie Chung's character of Gia, because that's how the episode did leave off. I was saying that, he started trying to decipher this language, right? And I think it had the word, well, I know it had the word die, but I think also it had words like suffer. Like there was other words about dying and suffering or something thrown in there. And he says, "How did you know?" And she just like, you shouldn't have gone back or something. I don't know. I think she kind of like, it was like the first call they had, saying that you shouldn't have gone back. So once again, question mark with that character. She was, I think, a love interest because he did bring her up when he was with Letitia by the bathtub, saying that, I was with this girl in Korea, and but it kind of alluded to like there were like a thing while he was stationed there,
I thought that
So
too.
so I just wanted to just to hear your thoughts on like what do you think we're gonna get from this Gia character? Is she probably gonna just post up pop up in the last episode as like who knows, she might come down like from a spaceship like how he had that dream in the first episode, or a daydream in the first episode. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, to me right now, all it seems like it's gonna be is just like a way to insert a little like love triangle in these last 5 episodes, and just to further complicate, Letty and Atticus working together in a productive way. So other
Mm,
than that, I'm not too excited about it. I mean, if they do something interesting with it, I have no crazy predictions that are gonna like break the internet right now about it.
mm.
I just, again, it felt like another one of those very forcefully inserted tidbits of this episode. So,
Well, I will go a step further because I started thinking about it just right now in the last like 30 seconds.
sure.
What if Atticus either gets Letty pregnant or he got that girl Gia pregnant and he passes on what he has from this lineage to the child? Because I think that was something that we had talked about with Elliot before about
Mhm.
possibly Letty getting pregnant and then passing this on, something, where you get like I don't know, I really don't know, but because he obviously has Atticus has something there, whether it's triggered by a ring or seances or wherever, he has something there that most people don't have, so or a lot of people don't have. So I'm trying to going back to that love triangle that you were talking about, that it could be possibly a little more when she does show up, and we can leave off with like some what is it, Academy Umbrella Academy show, something like that, where we get some kind of superhero kid or something.
Maybe, I just don't know if I have enough confidence for them to do something interesting with that at this point, based off what
Mm,
we saw this week. I'm not saying it's outside of the realm of possibilities. I think to put anything outside of the realm of possibilities when talking about this show is a bit foolish, as we
yeah.
both probably know watching this thing. But right, like, I'm not leaving this episode with much confidence going into the next one. I don't think it tarnishes the series as a whole. I think it's been a pretty strong series before, especially like we've spoken about many times on this show,
Mhm.
because you've been quite a big guest in this series. Young showrunner doing a decently good job, but there are some issues. Like, I think we've, beat them into the ground enough this episode in regards to clarity
Yeah.
and certain scenes translating the way they wanted to, or maybe may have not wanted to. I think the score still very much so steps on the toes of impactful moments, takes me out of the period piece, takes away all the tension. I feel like more and more as the episodes go by, all the songs just start to be less and less right for the moment.
Especially when you play them back to back. Like they played the same song like twice. Did they play the
Mhm.
Rihanna song again, or maybe it was the Cardi B one twice? But
Money. They played Money by Cardi B
oh,
twice.
oh, and then they played the. Did they play her first song, the Money, and then the other big hit that she had back in the day,
I
the
thought there
first
might
one?
have been a third one, but to be honest with you, I'm more on
Okay,
like, the rock and roll side of things. So I'm not
yeah,
too
I
familiar with her
think they played
catalog.
it. Yeah, a couple of songs by
Um,
her, but I was just like, this is overkill once again. I understand what they're trying to do, appeal to a younger audience. I think they're still trying to do it just to appeal to a younger audience. I don't think there's any
yeah,
artsy,
no, not at all.
cryptic thing going on with
Because
it.
there's so
But
many blues songs about like money and it being the root of all evil, and that was so much more of the times that they could have picked. I
yeah,
mean, geez, just listen to any BB King songs. Like,
yeah,
they're
it's
all
kind of
about like, money and like living like a wild life and like traveling on the road and doing music, and like
yeah,
they would all fit the vibe, you know?
yeah. You just
So
you
I
just
don't get it.
you just reminded me of that one movie with George Clooney. Oh brother, where art thou? Have you ever seen that one?
I have not.
Oh, fantastic movie
Okay.
about that time era, and they pick up a blues singer that has like the most incredible story, and I believe it's based on a real blues singer with that actually happened. The story that he tells, I'm not going to give it away, but it's a big director that did it too. I think not John Goodman is in the movie too. You got to check that movie out, man. It's if you like that time
Okay.
era,
I do, yeah.
it's a different focus too. It's they're on the run. It's three brothers. George Clooney's one of the three brothers, and they're on the run from the law, and they're like in those big old, those like old those old prison suits where they were like striped and stuff like that. And they're all
Yeah,
shackled
yeah.
together and they're all running together.
Oh, I
It's
love that stuff.
it's a good dramedy. I'll just say that, one of my favorites. But
Okay.
I was gonna say, do you think we are gonna get more Cthulhu? Because we did get him in that dream sequence. He has to make a comeback in this, or he or she or it has to make a comeback in the next couple of episodes for, I think, people to hold interest for these monsters.
Yeah, I think the show is going somewhere. I just hope it goes the place that they've set the expectation level out to be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's a little hard to say right now because after last week's episode, had you asked me that, and if this week's episode was as airtight as I thought last week's was, regardless of if you thought the Indiana Jones angle was a bit corny, I would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, we're going there, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome when it happens. Even if it's not your taste, it's still gonna be done well, is what I
Yeah.
would have said. But I can't really say that this week, and so in conclusion, I mean, this is definitely my least favorite episode right now where it stands,
Wow.
and I'm not feeling like too excited to pick this up again next week because
Interesting.
for as many cool things as there were and as many forget things I've forgiven in the past, the show's history so far, in regards to like not having clarity, thinking it will turn up and don't worry about it, it will come back, the calf birthing a monster, like I said, the woman who Ruby wakes up in the beginning, being in the woods in the first place, knowing exactly where they were, and then her coming back again. Like if they don't start to answer these things, I'm gonna kind of feel like I wasted my time on this series.
I feel like you take this shit way too seriously.
Dude, I do when it comes down to JJ and stuff, man. I really love JJ, but like I'm starting to
Yeah.
fall out of my JJ phase, I think, a little bit, because like this
I
stuff is just getting too much, man.
I can imagine you at like HBO headquarters with like a picket sign and signs just boycotting their like all JJ Abrams new projects or something. It's just
Oh man.
it's very funny when you're saying stuff like that. No, I totally get it, because I've had a lot of high hope moments or fanboy moments for certain things, and when they do let me down, I get hit hard. And it does seem like, I guess I could understand your point if all the episodes were extremely bad or even mediocre, but I feel like these are above average episodes for a show as a whole so far. And so it makes me kind of laugh when you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to take a chance. You're already halfway through. Like, you're not going to take a chance on the rest of the episode.
I mean,
like,
I'm gonna keep
season?
going, but it's like, dude, it's like been like everyone's been in the same boat this year for the most part in regards to like being locked inside.
Yeah.
And it's like I love Halloween and stuff like that. And so to
Yeah.
get a little like, crazy horror stuff early in the year, I was hyped, and it's just not living up to it, man. It's not giving me those spooky vibes I wanted a little earlier. And
I will say the balance of horror as far as like monsters go, or creatures, it's not as balanced as the whole Jim Crow stuff. It's definitely like 70-30 for a lot of the episodes. And I would have liked to see a little more 50-50, but I guess it's a harder tie-in when you go from these real life situations to the complete opposite, right? So I think that's why they throw in just a little sliver of it, usually towards the end of the damn episode. But in this case, you got it kind of throughout, which is something that I did like. Even with the haunted house episode, I forget what that episode's called. Is that the third episode, or that's the third one, right? Where it was kind of like the ghost in the house.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like
Holy Ghost.
Yeah, I feel like we got a huge chunk in like the last maybe 15-20 minutes of that episode as well. So we got a little more than what was like the first episode, which is like everything happened like 10 minutes at the end. But this one kind of happened throughout, and that's why I kind of held my interest with the horror, and then the regular storytelling of everything else.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I guess, look, I mean, we'll be along for the ride. I hope you continue to join us for the rest of the series. But
Oh, I'm here, man. I'm here.
Can't say I'm going to be too positive about it going forward.
I'm
going to keep being critical, man.
At least for good discussion, that's all.
Yeah, someone's got to be critical.
Yeah,
just because it's been a bad year doesn't mean we can't allow them to give us bad quality just because it's been a bad year, because then they're all going to get soft on us.
Right.
And we're going to be stuck with Westworlds and episode 5s of Lovecraft Country for the rest of our lives, and we're going to look back on Dude, we're gonna look back on shows like Ozark, which is like middle of the road, and think like, man, I wish I could have that quality again. And to me, that's a problem.
Yeah,
So,
that still baffles me. They're ending it so soon, and at its peak, like it's doing great. Why would you end it? But whatever. People are happy it's
but
ending, and okay.
it sucks. So good rid.
Ozark.
Ozark sucks.
Oh, you are tripping. We have to have a whole nother conversation about this, man.
Oh
I must have
man.
missed your podcast that you said it sucked. Ozark is one of my favorite shows of all time, but okay, we'll get into that later.
Well, a lot of people are disagreeing with me tonight. Q says episode 5 is good. Listen, I got to speak the truth, man. I got to be honest. I got
Your
to,
truth, your truth.
my truth. That's what I'm here to do. So
I think Q said something too. You're doing.
hey man, listen. Like I said, I am in school again for the first time in a while, and I have enough things to study. So if I have to study your show to talk about it intellectually on the internet, that's a problem. Weave a tighter web. That's how I'm going to end this one. Weave a tighter web, especially if you're being as daring as this, because I don't have time to take notes on a 6th course. You know what I mean?
We'll have to start a whole nother podcast for what you just said a little while ago. I'll just say that.
Oh, the Ozark thing?
Yeah, man.
All right.
I'm not letting that one go. I am not letting that one go.
Invite me on any day of the week. You name a day, I'll be there to tell you why that show sucks. I could write an essay on it if I had to.
All right.
Ozark is fire. I got to mind. All right, I got to get off this thing before I just enrage the whole internet. David, dude, thank you again for hanging, man. This was a blast. Closing thoughts, and then tell people, a little bit about what your channel is doing. But hold on, before you do that, Q, dude. Next Monday night, I'll message you on Instagram, dude. We'd love to have you. That'd be awesome. You're in.
Gotta let Q in.
You're in. Yeah. So David, take it away, man.
Yeah. So closing thoughts. We didn't even get to predictions either. I mean, I know it's hard to kind of predict these shows that are different. I think this is the only show I haven't really, and I don't watch the, at the end of these episodes, they go, oh, stay tuned for next week's episode or whatever. I don't watch those. I don't like to, get spoiled or whatever. They show way too much. Yeah. I don't like that. So I can't really predict what's going to happen next, if I'm being completely honest, but I'm happy where we're going despite us disagreeing on certain episodes. But yeah, it's always fun to be here to talk about this show or just, movies and stuff that we watch in general. And you guys can follow me on Flix Talk. That's on YouTube. You guys, Flix Talk, as well as on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Flix Talk Podcast. So make sure to follow all my social medias, guys, on YouTube. I like to do a lot of live chats, a lot of, I'm going to start getting into watch-alongs. We actually have a watch-along with Talking TV coming in October that I'm really actually looking forward to because I haven't seen that movie in a while, but we won't get into that. Coming soon, guys. So look forward to that. As well as I do vlogs out and about, a lot of lives, gaming, retro, just random chats, whatever it is. I talk about it on the channel as much as I can. Movie news as well. We do a weekly podcast with Elliot from Movie Files. So look forward to all of that on my channel.
Awesome, man. And we actually have a watch along coming this Friday here on the channel. Jumping over to a little bit about what we're doing here on our channel, and David is going to be a part of it along with a bunch of our other great content creator friends. We got AJ Reacts 2. We got both Mac and Christina, the Mac Movie Reviews podcast, and the one and only Brando Critic, who's blowing up. And what are we talking about? We are talking about a Karate Kid watch party. That blank space there isn't because I'm bad at graphics. It's so that we could be super trendy and tag people on their Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts. So yeah, that's Friday, guys. This Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the channel. You can go hit that video link, give it a thumbs up, set a reminder now so you can join us. And then the following week, we are interviewing one of the actors from the original Karate Kid right on our channel, and we'll announce that on the watch along. So stay tuned. We got a lot planned here. We're always trying to do new things for you guys, and we appreciate you guys being a part of the ride. So yeah, man, we're looking forward to it. And
very cool.
Love seeing you too, man. Hopefully you can really like seriously get on this thing next week. I want to get your take on it, And with that being said, guys, we love hearing from you. And that's a big thing that we like to do here. So subscribe, hit the thumbs up, turn on that notification bell, and talk to us in the comments. It means the world to us. There's a reason why we're still pumping out 3 videos a week. Dom working his first real big boy job, complaining about it to me every 5 seconds, and me being back in school, breaking my back in that regard, academically, if you will, while working. There's a reason why we're still giving a lot of time up to this. It's because we love it and we love you guys. So you guys know the deal. It's at Talking TV Podcast. You can see it right there on Instagram and Facebook. And you're already here on YouTube, so thank you so much. But if you're here and you haven't subscribed, just do that. And, with that being said, we will see you again next Monday night, same time, same place, as we talk all things Lovecraft Country, episode 6.
Oh, yeah.
Well, camera director.
Peace.
Peace out.